Hello and welcome to this week's Live and Invest Overseas webcast. I'm your host, James Archer, and today I'm joined by Leif Simon and Kathleen Petticord, the principals of Live and Invest Overseas, and also the developers behind the Islotes project here in Panama. So Leif and Kathleen, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, James. Good to be here.
Thanks, James.
So we'll jump straight in. What I wanted to discuss today was a little bit more about your vision behind the project. And I guess the best place to start is probably with you, Kathleen. So you've been writing about Panama now for a number of years, about living here, retiring here, investing here. And I've noticed myself living here for 4 years, there's been an influx of expats coming to this region. What do you think makes Panama so appealing, especially to North Americans?
Panama offers, I think, the full package, as we would put it, for a North American looking to retire, live, or invest in another country, because it's nearby enough, very easily accessible from the United States, easy to get back and forth. It uses the U.S. dollar as its currency, which means no exchange rate risk or concern, which can be a big concern for a potential retiree on a fixed U.S. dollar-based income. It is sunny, tropical, great weather year-round. Well, it does rain in the rainy season, of course, but great weather year-round for the most part. If you're looking to escape to the tropics, this is it. This is quintessential tropical escape. Loads of beaches, Pacific, Caribbean, and lots of islands as well. So whatever kind of beach you're looking for, Panama has it. As well, there's better infrastructure than anywhere in the region in Panama City, competitive infrastructure for anywhere in the world in Panama City. It is, again, just kind of everything that the North American retiree, but also right now that an investor is looking for, because Panama not only is a developed, although still developing, but developed U.S. dollar-based market and economy, but it is a fast-growing one. Panama's economy has increased, I think, on average 7 or 8% a year for the past 6 or 7 years or so. I'm pulling those numbers from memory, but it's something close to that, and there's no end to this in sight. What is fueling all of this is primarily the Panama Canal, and the expansion project of the Panama Canal will just further that when that's finally finished. Then as well, the expansion of the financial services industry here, the fast-growing tourism industry here. Panama is finally becoming competitive with Costa Rica, for example, as an eco and adventure travel destination. And as well, Panama City is increasingly competitive as a business market. And so there's a lot of foreign investment coming from many different sources.
Fantastic. And Leif, anything to add to that?
Wow, no, that pretty much covers it. I mean, it is just that, I mean, as we used to say years ago when we first talked about Panama, one of the attractions to Panama is kind of a halfway house for expats. There's a large enough population, especially in Panama City, that speaks English. The Americans were here for almost 100 years, so there's lots of Americanized aspects to Panama, particularly Panama City, and so it's an easy transition for a North American to come down to Panama and not have quite the same culture shock as you might have in some other countries like Ecuador or even Colombia.
Great. And you chose the Azuero Peninsula for Islotes project. I know from our conversations from when you first got here many years ago, you've been traveling around the whole of Panama and seeing different parts. What made you choose this area specifically for a project like this? And that's to Leif there, first of all.
Yeah, I figured that. So, well, we were looking for kind of the next spot in Panama for investment purposes. When we first came to Panama in 1999, Panama had just received the canal back. It had essentially gone into a recession because of all of the American military that was now no longer here spending their money. And so Panama City was a great super bargain for real estate investments. Then the beach areas, city beach areas, started to develop, and those became a great investment value. But as time and the economy had improved, those areas became more expensive. There's still good investment opportunities there, but we started looking for kind of the next area in Panama, and we started actually on the eastern side of the Azuero Peninsula, and looking at land in 2006, and found very quickly that they were already gringo pricing there for raw land. Prices for some raw land pieces we saw were more expensive than what developed lots should be, and so after spending some time there, a couple trips on that side of the peninsula, we made our way over to the western side, expecting to hit dirt road and find more of a raw area. But what we'd actually found was that at the end of 2006, they completed the paved road all the way down the coast past the little town of Arenas. So no dirt road, there was pavement. There were already some expats living there and had bought land there. And so prices were certainly cheaper than they were on the east coast, but not even as cheap as we had hoped for when we got there. But what we found on the western coast was better, more interesting terrain. So not only did we get better pricing on that side of the peninsula, it's more interesting land in that the hills go all the way down to the water, whereas on the eastern side of the Azuero Peninsula it's much flatter. So in the case of Los Islotes, the property we found for that project, a high percentage, we estimate 80% of the lots have an ocean view, whereas the same size of property positioned on the east coast, maybe 20% would have ocean views. So that was one exciting thing for us when we found this piece of property.
Okay, great. And you mentioned there about the eastern side. It's interesting you mentioned that because historically a lot of expats, North Americans, have moved to the beach areas, which you also mentioned, places like Coronado. But that peninsula has really seen an influx on the eastern side, at least. Do you expect, or have you seen the same sort of thing happening on the western side? Is there more people building houses down there, or North Americans looking for slightly more off the beaten track?
Yes, we've seen the number of expats, the number of people building houses in our area of the Azuero increased a lot over the last 5 or 6 years. The eastern side has just always been more developed. There's larger towns along that coast. There's Petitsi, which is a little colonial type town that attracts many expats. And so because of the population density over there, there are more closer, immediate available amenities like shopping and things like that, which attracts the expats as well. For our side, the nearest amenities are Santiago. The nearest town is Santiago, which is about an hour to an hour and a half from Los Islotes. And so that distance puts some people off because they want to be closer to things. But for the people who are interested in a lifestyle, an outdoor lifestyle, access to great beaches, great surfing, hiking. The national park is only about 15 minutes away from our front gate. It offers a more interesting lifestyle unless you want to be around all those people. For me, I'd rather not be around all those people on the east side.
Sure. And Kathleen, you touched on Santiago there. I know there's been a lot of developments in infrastructure, which is something you mentioned about Panama earlier. Can you talk a little bit more about what's been happening in the local area, and also what sort of towns people expect closer to this? Because I know there's small towns near the project. What's the sort of community like around the project as well?
The community is definitely emerging, but that it is emerging. In other words, at least there is some community today emerging. When we first started spending time in this part of Panama, the west coast of Veraguas, west coast of Azuero Peninsula, there was really no one else like us out there. We were truly one of among the first few who were paying any attention to this coast. And so, I don't know, going back 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, when we first went to Santiago, for example, and first traveled down this coast, we were very surprised if we heard anyone speak English. We would stay at a little hotel in Santiago called La Hacienda. We stayed there because it was the only hotel in Santiago at the time. And when we first started spending time there, we would, and La Hacienda is a nice, cute, nice little local hotel, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything we would have chosen had we had an option. and no one there spoke any English. Everything was very laid back and slow and easy, and there didn't seem to be any sense of urgency to anyone about anything. Then a year or two after we started spending time there, and we'd go back out, continue our scouting and research, and we'd stay again at the hacienda, we would notice and we would remark, boy, did you see there were 2 other tables in the restaurant for dinner where people were speaking English. And over time this has grown so that now there are options for hotels in Santiago, including a hotel called Mykonos, which is, for all the world, you might see on in a European coastal town. You might see it on the coast of the Med. It has that kind of a feel. It's definitely a very new, modern, comfortable hotel. There's another hotel, the Grand David, that's been renovated and is, again, upgraded and very modern and comfortable. Now Santiago has a feel of hustle and bustle about it. So fast forward 7 or 8 years, and this is one of the fastest growing cities in Panama, and that is a symptom of the fact that this is one of the fastest growing regions in Panama, and a region that is attracting much more attention from Panamanians, including the Panamanian government and especially the current Panama president, the current administration. President Varela is interested in this part of Panama. He's actually come out to visit. He's the first Panamanian president ever, I understand, to come out and spend time on this western coast of the Azuero Peninsula. He came and we had lunch with him, took him to Los Islotes and toured him around. He has sent out his Minister of Tourism, his Minister of Small Business Development, and many others. They've targeted this part of Panama now. Of course, we had no way of knowing that this would happen, that Varela 8 years later would be voted in as president and that he would have an affinity for this part of Panama. But we're awfully glad now to see it happening, because this support and interest from the current administration and the current government, coupled with the organic growth that's taking place in Santiago from a business and an investment point of view, is meaning big changes for this part of Panama, and I think is going to accelerate all the good things that we're looking for, including property values appreciation.
Fantastic. And Lee, just switching over to you slightly here, I know that when we've had conversations about looking for potential growth areas, we always talk about public infrastructure, and what I mean by that is things like hospitals, schools, airports, etc. We've had quite a big expansion project to the hospital in Santiago, and also the new airport that's opened up. Can you touch a little bit more on that for me, please?
Sure. Well, the hospital in Santiago, I forget how much capacity it increases the current hospital, but it's substantial, and it's a multi-story building with hundreds of rooms, and it's easily accessible. It's right on the main highway, so it's actually before you get to Santiago a kilometer or so. So it's one of the first things you get to coming to Santiago from Los Islotes. The airport. So the last president, Martinelli, wanted to launch a new airport, and one had been promised apparently when a resort group called Decameron came to Panama and put their resort in an area called Rio Hato, and so a bidding process was put out. They did some research and had all sorts of ideas for where to put this new airport. We were hoping, and at one point the Santiago airport was on the list as a possibility for being the new international airport, but in the end they did the airport at an old U.S. Air Force landing strip, because the government already owned the land, and it was big enough. It didn't need to actually be built or flattened or anything. It was already had been used in the past, right at Rio Hato, right where the Decameron is. So I'm sure there was some political pull going on there as well. But that new international airport, while it still doesn't have scheduled commercial flights, it has charters flying in there at the moment out of Canada. And as with any new airport like this in Central America, the main comparable would be Liberia Airport in Costa Rica. It takes time for the commercial airliners to start flying. They need to have know they're going to have enough demand before they start putting it into their schedule. So over time, that will that schedule will come online, and that cuts off about 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours from the drive from the current international airport in Panama City to Los Islotes. So that's a positive thing. We also now have 2 small certified landing strips right near Los Islotes, so anybody who wants to come out from Panama City on a small plane can land near to the property, and the one landing strip is only about 10 minutes away, and the other one, well, we'll call it 8 minutes because the other one's about 15 minutes. So those are very nearby. And then the Santiago airport has had some improvements as well, but there's still no scheduled flights within, from Panama City as there used to be. When I first came to Panama 16 years ago, they did have flights from Panama City to Santiago, but in that time they've expanded the road, the Pan American Highway, from Panama City to Santiago to 4 lanes. And so once that opened up and cut the drive time down, there was less demand for the in-country flights. So, but that airport is still there and available for landing larger planes, which sometimes we contemplate for the tours we take out there.
Great, and I suspect with the Tocumen International Airport, the expansion they're doing of the new terminal for internal flights, that might well change in the future. Kathleen, just jumping back into the project now, I know you've been very hands-on with the design side of the project. It's quite unique in its style. Can you tell us a little bit more about the design that you have in mind for this project and what you expect it to really look like when it's completed?
Our vision, our kind of big picture vision for this is that when it's completed, when Los Islotes is built out as we imagine it, it will appear to be, as though it could be, a 200 or 300-year-old Spanish colonial town out there on the coast of Veraguas. That someone coming upon it might think, boy, this is a beautiful old place. This is charming and historic. That's just a personal preference, but we like the Spanish colonial style. We like red clay tile roofs and arches and whitewashed walls and interior courtyards and those kinds of things that come with the Spanish colonial style. And so and we do have building covenants and in fact we have a review committee for someone who wants to build their own house. We don't mean to be discriminating or difficult, but we do have an idea of what we would like this to be when it's built out, and I think that when it is built out, it will be beautiful and lovely and charming, and it will include a central town area with a square and a Spanish colonial style church with a big bell tower and a nice bell, and so I have strong ideas that have become important to me about what Los Islotes will look like when it's all finished. And one of the big reasons, the big reason, I guess, why I've taken such a personal interest in this is because when we decided that this was such a beautiful spot, this was such a beautiful piece of land, and we wanted to include it as part of our long-term retirement plan. Our plan is to spend time each year in different places, to move around with the seasons, as it were, and our very long-term plan is to spend 2 or 3 or 4 months a year here in Panama. When we made that decision that we were going to be spending time here personally with our kids, and we look forward to with our grandchildren, well, then I thought, well, we'd want it to be a place where we want to be, and we want it to be filled with people who are interested in that same kind of lifestyle and who have just similar interests and ideas about aesthetics and things. And so we came up with the master plan, which includes the central town, and then the building requirements for individual construction that will carry through to the turnkey construction that we're going to offer. We're going to build some small casitas and also some condos, but it will all be in this same style.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there about using this property for yourself. I understand that your own personal house in Los Islotes is now under construction. How's that coming along, Kathleen?
It's coming along very well. Of course, it's taking longer than we would hope, and there are problems. Things don't go always the way as you might hope in the beginning, or even as you expect. We joke, and I think this is a good thing for anyone contemplating building a house of their own at Los Islotes or anywhere in another country. Leif and I joke, after having done this many times in different places, everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much as you think it possibly could or should. The good news with the Founders Lodge that we're building now is it's taking about twice as long as we thought it should, but it's not costing twice as much so far as our contractor told us to expect. So I tell Leif we're still coming out ahead. But we're well into it, and I would say we are into from the owner's perspective, from the perspective of the person building the house, we're in the dog days, as it were, because we're past the excitement of, oh boy, we're building our house and we have the design and we have the plans, and you break ground and you build the foundation and you're so excited. And we're not near enough yet to, oh, it's almost finished, this is going to be beautiful and great, we can't wait to furnish it and decorate it. We're in the middle part where it's a lot of construction. But it's definitely coming along, and it will be great when it's finished.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing my room. Leif, now Kathleen sort of gave us a little sneak peek there of some potential turnkey opportunities that might be coming up or will be coming up in the future. What can you tell us and can't you tell us about those right now?
Well, I know some people have had some Casitas reserved. We pre-launched those last fall, and based off of the schematic designs, and we got the construction plans, and I'm still trying to find a builder that can build them so that we can price them at a price that I think makes sense, that people would be interested in them, to try and keep them at a total price, base price of $200,000 or less. Unfortunately, it's hard. It's not easy to find builders anywhere in Panama, but finding someone to build these 5 Casitas out at Los Islotes has not been as easy as we'd hoped either, or at least finding someone who can build them at a price and a quality that makes sense. So we're still working on those and hope to resolve the cost versus value issue in the next few months. Meanwhile, I have an architect on the line to start planning the first condo buildings. And these condo buildings will be built in Mango Village, which is a flat area near the entrance of Phase 1. And so they won't have ocean views, but they will be very affordable 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. And then we have a section just across the road from Mango Village that does have ocean views, and we'll be building 1 building there. So in total, we'll have at least 4 of these condo buildings, 12 units each, in Mango Village, and 1 of these buildings up on the hill with ocean views. And I'm hoping that the architect can have everything done so that we can get some pricing together by the end of the year and launch those in pre-construction sales in January. And the goal is there'll be 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, that the 1-bedroom apartments come in somewhere in the $129,000 to $149,000 range. That's my target at the moment.
Perfect. And just jumping back into the here and now, for people that are listening to this for the first time or haven't really seen much information on Los Islotes, the idea is, of course, that you would purchase a lot within the project and then build your own house within the guidelines that are set out for the project. But can you talk a little bit more, Leif, about the responsibilities for you as a developer? What will you be offering infrastructure-wise for people that will be buying in this project?
Right, and that's one thing that makes us unique, at least on our side of the Azuero Peninsula, is we are doing, U.S. standard, first world standard infrastructure, which means, in this case, everything's underground, and we're providing everything. So, as the developer, we're installing the water, wastewater, and electrical systems all underground, and we'll have a wastewater treatment plant that will be installed and managing the wastewater. For amenities, we'll have a beach club. We'll have a little, a clubhouse down at the beach with the swimming pool. We will have other amenities, ranchos, barbecue areas, clubhouses, and swimming pools speckled throughout the project. Then, as Kathy mentioned, we'll have the town at some point. And in the town design, we have a town square, a little church building for the aesthetics of it. We'll have kind of a town hall building where meetings can take place. We can have the HOA meetings there. We even have a little museum in the town design for any of the artifacts, the native artifacts that we find on the property. And so those are some of the amenities. We'll have hiking trails and horse trails going through the green areas of Los Islotes, and of course we've got the beach. In fact, we've got two beaches separated by a point at the one corner of the property. So on the northern beach, we call it the swimming beach. It connects to an estuary and the islands. So there's a sandbar that creates basically a swimming hole at low tide of nice warm water and safe water with no undertow. And then on the main beach, the South Beach, it stretches out for 9 kilometers. Our property runs for a couple hundred kilometers, not kilometers, sorry, a couple hundred meters along that beach, but then we're at one end and it extends down 9 kilometers. And so that beach, you can go for walks or horse rides or whatever, but also it's can be used as a surfing beach. So for the surfers out there, they can just take their boards straight down to our beach and surf, plus there's a half dozen other surfing beaches along our stretch of coast. So those are the main amenities and the infrastructure. And again, back to the infrastructure real quick. So compare that, you get the water, wastewater, and electrical underground to the other projects in the area where what you get is above ground electricity, and you get to install your own well and your own septic system. So when you're comparing apples to apples for cost, you have to add those into whatever your lot costs you in another development. In our development, it's all included. It's what it comes with the full package.
Fantastic. And Kathleen, as our listeners probably picked up on there, with Leif describing what's on the project, it's a fairly substantial size project. I believe, off the top of my head, it's 250 hectares in size. So one of the questions I get quite often from readers is about what type of community you expect to be in this project once it's all completed and finished. Do you see this predominantly as an expat community, or can you describe what your vision is for the community that will eventually live here?
We would like it to be a very organic community, which is just, I would say, very mixed. Definitely it will be, Los Islotes will be populated by expats. That's who we speak to through our publications every day, and that's, who we are offering this to as an option for living, retiring overseas, and also for investment. And so we are populating Los Islotes with fellow and like-minded expats, but we also are really, really committed to becoming part of this community, the community in this part of Panama. This is important to us. Leif and I have been moving around the world for a long time, for decades, and doing lots of different things in different places, and we're now nearing the age where we want to become connected, and connected for the long term. And we want to do that in real and organic ways. And we want to be a good neighbor. And so we have, from the point of view of the Panamanians who live in the nearby villages of Mariato, Torrio, Cabro, etc., they're small little villages, a number of them along this coast nearby Los Islotes. The Panamanians who live in these villages, from their point of view, Leif and I and the 30-plus people who are working with us out there to develop Los Islotes in different ways. We have Gary as project manager on the ground. We have Mike as our contractor building the Founders Lodge. We have many others involved in design and implementation of the various aspects of construction and infrastructure, etc. Imagine you're a Panamanian out there. We have dropped out of the sky. We have fallen out of the sky. We are really aliens. And we identified something very valuable on this coast of Panama, something really beautiful, a beautiful piece of coastline that is as pretty or prettier than any piece of coastline I've seen anywhere in the world in more than 30 years of looking. And so when we decided we were going to be committed to this stretch of coastline, to this part of Panama long term, Well, we tried to keep some perspective and realize again, we're dropping in out of nowhere among the first gringos, the first non-Panamanians ever to be taking any interest in this part of this country. And so we don't want to upset the apple cart or the organic ecosystem at any level. We're very careful about all the environmental concerns, and we take them seriously. We are very careful as well about the community concerns, and we take them seriously. We've made friends out there now. We've made connections. We're helping to sponsor two local schools in the area nearby Los Islotes. Gary, our project manager, and his wife, Karen, have become very involved out in this part of the country with lots of different grassroots efforts. We want to be good neighbors. We want to look around and say, and try to notice what we could do to help and then lend a hand. Not in a big, aggressive, we're coming in, we can fix everything kind of a way, not at all. But in a very low-key, organic, here we are, we're committed, we're going to be here, we're going to bring lots of other people like us here. We all have an interest to take advantage of what this part of this country has to offer, but we want to also contribute and leave something behind. We want to leave our mark in a long-term legacy kind of way, and this definitely comes down to community. So we are making connections, we are making friends, we are making commitments to help the local community through the schools and in any other way that presents itself.
That's fantastic. And I know that Gary on the ground and has been, you mentioned at the end there, working a lot with the schools and giving them computers and books and so forth, which I could see from my own trips down there that's really bedded the project and yourselves into the community already, which makes it even more exciting for the future. Just one thing I wanted to point out, which you touched on, Kathleen, is it's really hard to envisage the views and the beauty of this area without seeing it firsthand, but we've tried our best to be able to show you some of that through our website. So if you do have the chance, if you're listening to this, to go to www.losislotes.com, you'll see a virtual tour there where you'll get some great shots, 360 shots of the project. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so Leif, I just jump one final question to you. I know there's an impending change to the structure of the developer financing the project as of 1st of July. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Sure. So as the developer, we've been offering a very attractive financing package for lot buyers, which has been 20% down, 0% interest with the balance paid quarterly over 3 years. And we've had that as kind of a pre-infrastructure financing offer for buyers. As we're into installing the infrastructure, Gary's working on the water and wastewater, and the electrical people should be starting out there in the next couple of weeks on the ground. The financing package is going to change. So as of July 1st, we will be changing the financing to 50% down with the balance paid over 3 years at 6% interest. So we're increasing the down payment and we're adding interest. But anybody in the next, week, I guess, who reserves a lot, and then I think we're giving them some period of time, it's either 2 weeks or 30 days to come down and view their lot, can still take advantage of the previous financing offer.
Great. Well, I thank you both very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me today. So thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Leif.
It's our pleasure, James. Thank you very much.
Happy to do it.